I married Emily right after graduating college in New York. She was smart, charming, and had this infectious energy that made everyone around her smile. From the very first day, I believed she was the one. I gave her 10 years of my life with unwavering trust and commitment. We started small, a modest apartment in Queens, where we painted the walls together, arguing playfully over colors and furniture arrangements. I remember late nights sitting on the floor assembling IKEA furniture while she brought me coffee, laughing at my frustrated expressions. It was simple, ordinary, yet it felt perfect at the time. We dreamed of vacations, exploring the beaches of Florida, walking under the neon lights of Las Vegas, and sipping coffee at Central Park. I saved every dollar from my IT job, sacrificing weekends and late nights, so we could build a life together. Emily often reminded me, half joking, that I was too serious. She loved my dedication but teased that I needed to loosen up, enjoy life a little more. And I did, for her. I wanted to give her the world, even if that meant putting my own comfort aside. Family life, or at least what I imagined it would be, was on the horizon. We talked about having kids, adopting pets, and even the names of future children. I pictured birthday parties, little soccer games in the park, and bedtime stories. I trusted Emily completely, never imagining that one day my entire life could unravel. But life, as it turns out, can be cruel in ways you never see coming. It started with small, almost invisible changes. Packages would arrive for a man I didn't know, and Emily would act annoyed when I asked about them. I dismissed it at first, convincing myself that I was overthinking. Maybe it was a coworker, a distant relative, or some subscription I didn't know about. My trust in her was so strong that I ignored the little warning signs, believing in our love and the life we had built together. We shared mornings drinking coffee on the balcony, talking about everything and nothing. I smiled, thinking that life had given me everything I wanted, a loving wife, a home in New York, and plans for a future filled with happiness. Little did I know, the foundation I believed was unshakable was already starting to crack. And soon, that perfect picture I had in my mind would shatter completely, leaving behind only questions, betrayal, and a pain I could never have anticipated. Even as I worked late nights, juggling emails and deadlines, I thought about Emily constantly, wondering what she was doing. Was she excited about our future as much as I was? I assumed yes. I trusted her. I loved her. And I had no idea that behind the smiles, laughter, and shared dreams, a secret was growing, a secret that would eventually turn my entire world upside down. The first cracks appeared subtly, almost innocuously, but once you notice them, you can't unsee them. Emily's phone was never far from her hand. At first, it was just the occasional glance at a text while I poured coffee or a whispered laugh during a call. I brushed it off as normal, everyone has friends, right? But over time, the pattern became harder to ignore. Weekends she claimed were for book clubs, or yoga retreats, were often spent disappearing for hours, sometimes the entire day. One Saturday, curiosity gnawed at me harder than ever. I decided, reluctantly, to follow her. I tried to convince myself it was just a fleeting suspicion, a trick my mind was playing after so many years of trust. But as I trailed her through the streets of Queens, every step tightening the knot in my stomach, I realized something was terribly wrong. She didn't go to a class or a friend's apartment. She went to the local post office's back parking lot and waited. And then, he appeared. The mailman. Someone I had seen every morning, greeting politely as he delivered letters and packages. Someone I had trusted implicitly, the friendly face of routine in our building. And there they were, Emily laughing, leaning close, whispering, their gestures too intimate to be innocent. My chest tightened as a mixture of disbelief and anger rose inside me. I wanted to turn away, to pretend I hadn't seen anything, but a part of me needed to know how deep this went. Rumors started circulating, though I had hoped they wouldn't. Neighbors whispered, small mentions here and there about Emily and the mailman. And then, the most devastating revelation, she had children with him. 3. My 10 years of commitment, the nights I worked extra hours, the weekends I sacrificed, the life we built together, all of it felt like it had been a lie. I confronted Emily one evening, trembling with a mix of rage and sorrow. She didn't deny it. She admitted everything with a cold clarity that cut deeper than any scream or insult could. I needed excitement, she said casually, as if that justified her betrayal. I wanted a different life. The words echoed in my head like a cruel joke. 3 children, with the man delivering our letters. How could the person I loved, the person I trusted with my entire life, betray me so completely? I spent nights awake, replaying every moment of our life together, questioning every memory. The laughs, the late-night talks, the dreams we shared, were they all lies? I felt my foundation crumble beneath me. Friends tried to console me, saying things like, "You'll find someone else," or, "It's her loss," but they couldn't feel the knife twisting in my chest, the betrayal of a decade of unwavering trust. Eventually, I realized I had to make a choice. I couldn't stay in the apartment where the betrayal had taken place, couldn't keep living with the reminders of everything I had lost. I began planning to move, but even the thought of leaving her, the woman I once loved so deeply, felt like losing a part of myself. Betrayal had entered my life, uninvited and brutal, and there was no turning back. My perfect New York life had become a nightmare, and I had no choice but to face the truth and start rebuilding from the ruins. The moment I confronted Emily, the apartment felt smaller, suffocating even. I remember standing in the middle of our living room, my hands trembling, heart pounding, staring at the woman I had loved with everything inside me. "Is it true?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "Are there really children?" She looked at me, her expression strangely calm, almost indifferent, as if she had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind. Then she nodded. 3 children, all fathered by the mailman. My world tilted, and I felt as if I were falling without a bottom to catch me. Her words were sharp, cold, and final. "I needed a different life," she said, avoiding my gaze. "I wanted someone who could give me excitement, someone who could be different." Excitement, different. Those words replayed in my mind like a cruel, mocking echo. 10 years of loyalty, love, patience, and dreams, reduced to insignificance by a few selfish choices. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was a demolition of everything I believed in. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her understand the depth of the devastation she had caused. But the tears came first, unbidden, hot and sharp. I realized that anger alone could not capture the pain of a decade thrown away. I had invested my life into someone I trusted implicitly, and she had used it as a stepping stone for her own desires. Every memory, every plan, every little moment of happiness suddenly felt tainted, and I wondered if I had ever truly known her at all. I packed a bag the next day, moving out of the apartment that had been both our home and the stage for her betrayal. I left behind photos, gifts, and memories, each item a reminder of a life that no longer existed for me. Walking out felt like amputating a part of myself. Friends tried to comfort me, offering words of support and sympathy, but they couldn't touch the rawness of the wound. No words could. The legalities came next: division of property, financial separation, custody questions. Even in those mundane, procedural moments, the betrayal was present. Her calmness contrasted sharply with my storm of emotions, highlighting the chasm that had grown between us. I realized that some betrayals weren't just personal, they altered the very structure of your life, shaking it down to the core. In the quiet evenings that followed, I sat alone in my new apartment in Brooklyn, staring out at the skyline and trying to process the enormity of what had happened. Therapy became a lifeline, helping me untangle the knots of grief, anger, and confusion. Slowly, I began to understand that this was not my failure, that trusting and loving someone for a decade was not a mistake. The mistake had been hers, and while it hurt, it was her choices, not mine, that had caused this wreckage. I learned that betrayal cuts deeper than any wound you can see. It leaves scars on the heart, the mind, and even the way you see the world. But it also taught me resilience. Painful as it was, it forced me to confront myself, to reclaim control over my life, and to understand that my worth was not tied to someone else's choices. Life was broken, yes, but not over. And in that brokenness, I began the slow, painful journey of rebuilding, piece by piece. Life after Emily was nothing like I had imagined. The apartment in Brooklyn was smaller, quieter, emptier, but it was mine. Every corner reminded me of independence, of a life that belonged solely to me, even if it carried the lingering ache of loss. The first weeks were brutal. I woke up to silence where laughter once echoed, ate meals alone, and wandered streets that used to feel familiar but now seemed foreign. Nights were the hardest, memories of her, our shared dreams, and the betrayal replayed endlessly, like a loop I couldn't escape. Therapy became my anchor. Sitting across from a stranger, I allowed myself to speak the words I couldn't say aloud to anyone else, the hurt, the anger, the humiliation. Slowly, I began to untangle the emotions that had twisted inside me for months. I learned that betrayal doesn't just break trust, it fractures your sense of self. But it doesn't have to destroy it completely. Bit by bit, I rebuilt my confidence, reminding myself that my life was not defined by her choices, but by how I responded to them. I focused on work, throwing myself into projects I had once postponed, traveling for business opportunities I had once hesitated to accept, and reconnecting with friends who had remained supportive throughout the chaos. I took small joys seriously, a cup of coffee in the morning, a walk along the East River, the quiet satisfaction of a room I could call entirely my own. Slowly, I felt pieces of my old self returning, tempered now by wisdom and a deeper understanding of what I deserved. Months later, life surprised me in unexpected ways. I met someone new, someone honest, patient, and kind. At first, I was hesitant, guarded even. Trust had been shattered before, and I wasn't eager to rebuild it lightly. But this person respected boundaries, valued transparency, and shared in the kind of quiet, steady companionship I had once longed for. It wasn't fireworks or dramatic passion, it was something better, stability, respect, and mutual care. I realized that love could exist again, just not in the same naive way as before. Even as I moved forward, the scars of Emily's betrayal remained. They were reminders of the pain I endured and the lessons I learned. I knew now the value of self-worth, of choosing partners wisely, and of never ignoring the subtle signs when something feels wrong. I had learned resilience, not just the ability to survive heartbreak, but to grow stronger because of it. One evening, looking out at the Brooklyn skyline, I smiled quietly to myself. Life had tested me, stripped away illusions, and forced me to confront betrayal in its rawest form. But I had survived, I had rebuilt, and I had learned that even after the deepest pain, hope could return. Love could return, too, but only when tempered by wisdom and self-respect. My 10 years lost with Emily would never come back, but the next chapters of my life, unshaken by betrayal, were mine to write. In this time, I would write them carefully, boldly, and honestly, for myself first, and no one else.